First-generation Mustang. In April 1964, Ford unveiled the Mustang at the New York World's Fair. Within 24 hours, dealers had taken over 22,000 orders. By the end of the first year, Ford had sold 418,000 units. No car in history had ever launched like that. The man behind it was Lee Iacocca, Ford's general manager. His idea was simple but radical. Build a sporty car based on the cheap Falcon platform so it could sell for under $2,400. Long hood, short deck, and enough options to let buyers customize it however they wanted. The base model came with a straight 6 making 101 horsepower. Nobody remembers that one. What people remember is the V8. The 289 small block turned the Mustang from a secretary's car into a muscle machine. By 1967, Ford stretched the body and offered a 390 big block. The Shelby GT turned it into a racing weapon. By 1969, the Boss 302 and Boss 429 were competing in Trans Am and NASCAR. By 1971, though, the Mustang had grown so big and heavy it barely resembled the original. Emissions rules were choking power. Insurance rates were climbing. The golden era was ending. Mustang II. The generation everyone loves to hate. When Ford launched the Mustang II in 1974, the muscle car era was already dead. The oil crisis of 1973 had crushed demand for big V8s. Emissions regulations were strangling power. Insurance companies were charging insane rates for anything fast. So Ford did something radical. They made the Mustang small. Really small. Based on the Ford Pinto platform, the Mustang II came standard with a 2.3-liter four-cylinder making 88 horsepower. That's less power than the original 1964 base model. But here's what nobody mentions. The Mustang II sold incredibly well. Ford moved over 1 million units during its run. It won Motor Trend Car of the Year in 1974. The FoxBody. Launched in 1979 on Ford's new Fox platform, the third generation ran for 14 years and became one of the most modified cars in American history. The design was a complete departure. Boxy, angular, almost European. It looked nothing like a Mustang, but that was the point. Ford wanted a clean break from the bloated first gen and the embarrassing Mustang II. The engine that made it legendary was the 5.0-liter V8 in the GT. In 1987, Ford bumped it to 225 horsepower with fuel injection, and suddenly, the Mustang was fast again for the first time in over a decade. But the real story was the aftermarket. The FoxBody's simple rear-wheel drive layout, lightweight construction, and dirt-cheap price tag made it the perfect drag car. By the late 80s, FoxBodies dominated local drag strips across America. The police loved them too. The special service package turned the FoxBody into one of the most common highway patrol cars in the country. The SN95. In '94, Ford introduced the Mustang's first complete redesign in 15 years. The styling went curvy and organic, trying to reference the original 60s design with rounded headlights and sculpted fenders. In 1996, the 5.0 was replaced by a 4.6-liter modular V8. It made around 215 horsepower in the GT, which was actually less than the old 5.0. Enthusiasts noticed. The 2003 Terminator Cobra is where things got serious. Ford bolted an Eaton supercharger onto the 4.6, pushed it to 390 horsepower, and gave it a 6-speed manual. It ran the quarter mile in the low 12 seconds from the factory. That was Corvette territory. The SN95 wasn't revolutionary. It wasn't the fastest or the best looking, but it held the line during a dark decade for American performance. It kept the V8 Mustang alive until something better could come along. The S197. In 2005, Ford did something nobody expected. They looked backwards. The S197 was a retro-styled Mustang that borrowed design cues directly from the 1967 Fastback. Squared-off headlights, wide grille, muscular haunches, and a long hood that screamed classic American muscle. The timing was perfect. Nostalgia was selling. The new Beetle had worked for Volkswagen. The PT Cruiser had worked for Chrysler. Ford bet that a retro Mustang would work too, and they were right. Sales exploded. The GT got a 4.6-liter V8 making 300 horsepower. Not groundbreaking, but solid. In 2011, Ford swapped it for the new 5.0 V8 producing 412 horsepower, and the Mustang community went crazy. The 5.0 badge was back. The Shelby GT 500 was the headline maker. In its final 2013 form, it packed a supercharged 5.8 V8, making 662 horsepower. That made it the most powerful production Mustang in history at the time. The S197 also marked a shift in how Ford thought about the Mustang globally. Ford was watching the rest of the world, where the Mustang was admired but never officially sold. That was about to change. The S550. This is the Mustang that went global. In 2015, Ford made a decision that changed everything. They gave the Mustang an independent rear suspension for the first time ever, right-hand drive capability, and shipped it to over 140 countries. The engineering changes were massive. The independent rear suspension replaced the solid rear axle that had been there since 1964. Purists complained. They said a solid axle was part of the Mustang's identity. Ford said it was time to evolve. The 2.34-cylinder turbocharged EcoBoost was the other controversial move. A 4-cylinder Mustang again, but this one made 310 horsepower and got significantly better fuel economy. In Europe, it outsold the V8. The GT still had the Coyote V8. The Shelby GT 350 got a V8 called the Voodoo that revved to 8,250 revolutions per minute. The GT 500 returned with a supercharged 5.2, making 760 horsepower. The S550 proved that the Mustang could be a world car without losing its soul. The S650, launched in 2024 and carrying the biggest question in Mustang history on its shoulders. Is this the last combustion-powered Mustang? Ford hasn't confirmed that, but the Mach-E exists. The electric SUV that Ford controversially gave the Mustang name already outsells the coupe in some markets. So Ford did something interesting. Instead of apologizing for the V8, they doubled down. The Dark Horse is the new performance flagship. It takes the Coyote V8, adds a unique flat-plane crank intake manifold, upgraded connecting rods, and pushes it to 500 horsepower with a Tremec 6-speed manual. The name Dark Horse was chosen specifically to signal aggression. This isn't a Mustang trying to be efficient or modern. It's a Mustang trying to be as loud and fast as possible while it still can. The S650 might be a transitional car, a bridge between the Mustang's analog past and whatever comes next. But if it is the end, Ford is making sure the V8 goes out screaming.